Hello everybody, this is Bruce at FlamingGorilla.com, and today I thought I'd do a little video on the tools that you need to, well, essentially to swap scales if you buy some scales from somebody like Original Goat or Flytanium or Flaming Gorilla. But these tools will also help you do any sort of maintenance on your knives, especially Spyderco knives. That's what I'm focusing on. But these tools will cover you for a lot of other knives, almost all knives. So if you're like me and you just starting out in the knife enthusiast area and you want to make some modifications to your Spyderco knives, or you want to do maintenance to some knives, you're wondering, what tools do I need to get started? And that's what I'll be talking about today. I should cover just about all of them. Links to everything that I cover in the video today are provided at FlamingGorilla.com in the Tools You Need section, and I'll put a link to that below. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about disassembly tools, so the things you need to take the knife apart, cleaning tools, stuff you need to keep the knife clean, to clean it out on a regular basis, perform maintenance. Lubrication, same thing. Every time you take the knife apart, you want to put a little bit of lubrication in there. There's a Spyderco specific tool that I'll talk about that will make your life so much easier if you're taking apart Spyderco knives with a lanyard tube. And so basically, everything you need to perform a scale swap or do maintenance on your knives we'll cover in this video. So first, your workspace. Last thing you want to do when you're taking apart a knife is lose the screws or lose the pivot or the pivot lanyard tube or something like that. So you want some sort of surface to work on, also so you don't mar your knives or anything like that. You can use a towel if you want to do it cheap on a budget, but silicone mats like this are very cheap. Like, I'm talking $10, $15 on Amazon. And they have these wonderful little grooves that will hold screws, areas for your tools. It'll protect your knife's finish. This is made of silicone. And it'll protect your knives. It's soft. So this one I think is either, I don't know, it's called Kaisi or Strabito. I'll put links in the down below. But basically some sort of breakdown mat that has little compartments for screws and things like that. Something to contain screws and your knife parts so they don't fall off. Okay, so we get to probably the most important tool for doing any knife maintenance, and that is a bit driver and bits. So in order to take apart a knife like this, this is a Spyderco Manix 2, you're going to need to be able to take out these screws in this lanyard tube in order to get at the inside of the knife. Almost all knives, folding knives on the market, use Torx bits. So you can probably see this little kind of 6-pointed star in there. And what you're going to need to do to take those out is you're going to need a bit driver. So there's two basic kinds. There's a regular bit driver, and I'll show you a few of those, and then there's kind of the stubby short ones, and I'll show you those and tell you what those are for. So here's an example of what I call a regular bit driver. It takes 1/4-inch bits. It has a little spinny thing at the top, which makes driving in screws and so forth easy. Here's another one. This one is by Chavez. It's called the Fat Man, I believe. And this one has storage inside it. If I can get in there. It says, oh, no, I didn't take out the storage part. That's just the spinny part. Anyway, we'll cut that out in post. So Some of them have storage inside. Some of them are very fancy, like this one that has a retractable bit, and then you can change which bit you're using by rotating this this little rotation, this little barrel here, and then bring up a different one. So there you go. Definitely didn't make that look easy. So those are the regular bit drivers, and then there are some short bit drivers that you'll find really handy and are almost necessary. The one that I would say is absolutely necessary for any kit is the Weha Stubby. It is able to fit in your palm and get really close, and it provides a lot of torque without having you bend. When you use one of these at kind of a distance, it's easy to get off angle and potentially strip your screws, especially when you're putting force on them. But with the Weha Stubby, you get in there and you can really crank on it and keep it steady and even. So this one is absolutely essential. And then another great one is this Skiff Workshop, I think it's called finger bit. So this one allows you to hold it in your hand like this, place it in the screw, and then use another tool on the other side to do whatever you're doing. This comes in handy when you've got things like barrel spacers. Let me see if I have an example of one. I don't have one next to me. But barrel spacers that go between the two liners can sometimes free spin. So you try to turn the screw and the whole thing turns with it. This allows you to hold one side steady while you're unscrewing or screwing the other side. So it really comes in handy. And I think that's it for drivers. So let's talk about bits. So the required bits, the most common sizes that will be good for almost all the knives you work on, are T6, 8, and 10. There will be ones that require 12s or 15s or even 7s, but for the most part, T6, 8, and 10 will be the ones you're using all the time. And you can see here that I've got a T10 in this one, a T8 in this one, and a T6 in this one because they're the most commonly used ones. T6s are for things like the pocket clip screws. These are usually for body screws, and this is for pivot screws, the 10. So one thing I will tell you is that you don't want to skimp on bits. When it comes to buying bits, go for a Weha. It's kind of the accepted premium bit. They're not that expensive, but their tolerances are a lot tighter. If you buy cheap bits, it's possible that you'll get one that's a little undersized and loose, and you'll end up stripping a screw, and that is a real pain. So what happens when you strip a screw? Well, you've got to deal with Spyderco's warranty department and then wait for the shipping, or you've got to spend money for new screws. If you can find them, they're not easy to find. These are not all common size screws. So it definitely pays to spend money on the bits up front. So a couple of ways you can go. You can get a kit like this that comes with, I think, let's see, I can't remember the actual range of the bit selector, but you can see that it goes from very small, I think that's a T5, maybe that's T6, all the way up to kind of a semi-fatty, a T25. So that's a good kit. Again, not much money, definitely worth it. The other thing you can do, because you're going to want multiples of each size, just in case you need to go at a, like say a T8 screw from both sides, you're going to need 2 drivers and you're going to need 2 bits. So one way to save money is just to buy them in like little blister packs of Weha. I've got a link in the that I'll provide below. It's like a T5 to T10 set, and I think it's like $10, something like that. It's very cheap. It's a six. I think it's a 6-piece set, and this one is 11 pieces. So I mentioned before that there's a Spyderco specific tool that I'm recommending to make your life a whole lot easier, and that is the Lanyard tube removal tool, a weird looking thing. So I got this one from Etsy. I'll provide a link to that again below. There's also some other, I think Way of Knife or something like that. There's some other places where you can get these. But basically it's a little pry bar system. So you fit it around the, let me open this up so that I don't mar the blade, but you put it around the lanyard tube, and then you screw it down onto the actual lanyard tube and push it through. So you do that obviously once you have the screws off and you are opening it up. But what you'll find is that occasionally on a Spyderco knife, you're going to get a lanyard tube that is really tight. I mean, so tight that when you try to take it off by hand, you can work it back and forth, and it just doesn't want to give. You can get it eventually, and you can end up using things like pry bars and things like that, but this is much cleaner, much less damaging, and again, it'll save your bacon, so I recommend getting one of these. And again, they're not too expensive. 20 bucks? Can't remember exactly. Okay, what's next? So some other helpful tools that you're going to want. Little plastic pry tools for separating scales. Here's an example from iFixit. So there's that one. There's one with a little hook and a pry. I use this one most often. And you even get some little guitar pick looking things, again, to pry things. You don't really want to use metal when you're prying. I have an example of one of those right here that came with a watchmaking or watch repair kit, but I wouldn't recommend metal. I would stick with plastic. Something like this is going to come in handy quite a bit, and it doesn't mar the scale or the blade or anything like that, so these are very handy. The other one that is kind of like the lanyard tube removal tool, it's going to save your bacon one of these days, and you're going to be very happy you have it, and that is the Knipex Cobra XS mini pliers. So these things are fantastic. They get into areas that you just can't get into, as you can see, with other things and hold. So if you've got, again, if you've got a back spacer that's rotating on you, you can put a little cloth around this to keep it from marring the surface of it. But you can go in and grab onto that tube and take out your screw and you'll be fine. So really highly recommended. It will definitely come in handy. You'll find yourself using it more often than you think. And then last thing I'd mention is that sometimes you will get body screws or pivot screws that the manufacturer has locked with red Loctite, a chemical that hardens on the threads and prevents them from turning. Blue Loctite is what most manufacturers use, but every once in a while you either get a blue Loctite one that's just really locked hard, or you'll get, for some reason, someone will use red Loctite, and what will happen is you'll try to turn that screw and you'll strip the screw because it just will hold on for dear life and it won't come loose. So what you do in that case is you use a heat gun or a soldering iron pressed to the screw, or if you don't care too much about causing any sort of cosmetic damage, you can even use like a butane torch or something like that to heat it up until that Loctite becomes looser, and then you can break it with a Torx bit. So that will come in handy sometime. Not absolutely necessary, but something to think about. So let's talk about cleaning. You've got your knife open and you want to clean the insides. What do you need? So number one thing you need is isopropyl alcohol to clean the grease and leftover lubricant and dirt and grime off of everything that's in there. You can use this to clean the inside of the scales, to clean the inside of the liners, to clean the pivot, the washers, the blade, everything. So I use this little handy dandy dispenser thing, and you want lint-free wipes. That's another thing that you're going to want, and that way you can just press it a couple times and you got it on there without having to use a second hand to pour it out of the bottle if you're holding something. So alcohol, lint-free wipes, cotton swabs, which I don't have in front of me, but we all know what cotton swabs are. I like the ones you can get them on Amazon. I think I put a link below that have a pointy end on one end and a rounded, kind of tightly woven rounded end on the other end. Those are great for getting into tight spaces. You'll want a lint-free cloth, so something like this, or if you're really fancy, you can use the Flaming Gorilla lint-free cloth. And then finally, you're going to want some sort of cleaner to make your blade look pretty and also to protect it. And I recommend this KPL knife shield. It does a good job. It's a little messy. You can see the residue around here. It gets a little messy, but it does a good job of cleaning the blade, making it look great, and also supposedly prevents rust and corrosion. It provides some sort of protective layer. So I'd recommend that. And then lubrication. Every time you open up the knife and you clean it, you're going to want to lubricate the inside of the knife. So a couple different things you can use for that. The one that's probably most commonly used is KPL, knife pivot lube, and there's three kinds. There's heavy, there's original, and there's light. So original you would use for things like the washers and any other mechanisms in there. The heavy is used for the detent track and the detent ball, which I'll get into when I do some further videos on breaking down Para 3 and PM2 and doing maintenance and scale swaps on those. But original is a must-have, or at least something. I've also got this Gunny Glide. That's another good one that you can use for the washers. You don't absolutely need something like KPL heavy on the detent ball, but it is nice to have. And then finally, when you take the screws out, when you go to replace them, they have a tendency to loosen up over time. And especially with the pivot screws, this can cause your blade to get loose. So you want to make sure they're locked into the position that you want them in. And to do that, the most commonly used thing is something called Loctite. So Loctite Blue, which is a medium strength thread locker, you put just a drop on the threads of the screw and screw it in, and it will overnight harden so that the screw will stay in place. It won't harden so hard that you can't unscrew the screw again. You'll be able to break it, but it will hold it in place and prevent things like vibrations and repetitive motions from loosening it up. So there's two ways to do that. You can either apply it with the liquid, which I have here, or you can use the stick, which I can't find in front of me right now. But there's a stick Loctite that you basically take the edge of the screw and rub it on to get a little bit of this waxy blue Loctite on there. The stick is much more convenient and less messy. It's hard to get the perfect amount of Loctite on your screw. One method is to take the Loctite and put it, say, on a couple of drops of it on something, and then use a cotton swab to take it and dab it onto the thread. I don't know. I tend to use the stick more often than not. It's just easier, and I think it works just as well. So we talked about the workbench mat in your work area, the Torx driver and bits, the Lanyard tube tool, the Pry Tools, the Knipex pliers, cleaning supplies, lubricants, and Loctite. So that pretty much covers it. If you have all these things, you will be able to do maintenance on just about any knife, and you'll definitely be able to do scale swaps on Spyderco knives. So again, I've got a link below to our website that has all the links to the products I mentioned today. If the links don't work, or if you have a problem or question, please let me know in the comments and I'll address it. Upcoming, I'll have some new videos coming out showing you how to perform a scale swap on knives like the Para 3 and the PM2, and also to do maintenance on them. And basically for every knife that Flaming Gorilla offers scales for, I'll be doing a video on how to do a scale swap, how to do maintenance. So thank you for watching the video. Like, subscribe. Please feel free to comment, make fun of me, and stop by flaminggorilla.com and check us out.